Hello, everyone. I'm Susana. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Google's ad grant program. And before I get started, I wanted to see a show of hands. Is anyone using ad grants right now? Great. Does anyone want to get started using ad grants but hasn't yet? More hands. Wonderful. So the presentation will do a couple of different things. I'm going to introduce you to our program. For those of you who want to get started, you'll have actionable things that you can take away today to get started. If you are using ad grants, I want to give you some tips to be able to use the program more effectively. And then lastly, you'll have a chance to see how you can connect with the team for more help. Bird's eye view, there are 100 billion searches on Google per month around the world. The likelihood that some of those searches are going to be related to the cause that your nonprofit supports is really high. So there's a lot of opportunity here for you to take advantage of the curiosity about what you care about. I'm sure you're familiar with this screen, but I wanted to set some context. Again, bird's eye view. You'll see at the very top a search. That's a query, what we'll call a query through the rest of this presentation. In the green box, you'll see advertisements. Some of these ads here will be paid, and then Google Grants are also showed in that green box, but they're free. They're a granted in-kind donation to your nonprofit. In the bottom blue box, you'll see organic results. This is what Google thinks will be relevant to the person searching for donate old coats. There's a lot of text on this screen, so I wanted to say there is a version of this presentation online. If you can't see the screen or can't take notes fast enough, you'll go to our website, our YouTube channel, and you can see it a little bit more closely. So our mission is to grow charitable giving online and help nonprofits succeed by reaching large audiences in relevant, actionable, and measurable ways for their goals. The four categories that we see most nonprofits, four categories of goals, tend to be educating their population, the wider population about your cause, inspiring action, whether that be someone who is seeking your services to act, to get in touch with your nonprofit, get some help, or to inspire volunteers to get involved, take some action, organize things on their own. Recruiting volunteers is another big goal that we see a lot of nonprofits use our advertising for. And lastly, maybe most important, is finding donors. I think you can maybe see the text there, but we've had one nonprofit, Global Giving, raise $400,000 from 5,000 donations just through the power of Google Ad Grants. There are some criteria for participating in our program. They generally fall in these three categories, and you can see the full list of requirements on our website. The first is that you be mission-based. One way that we determine this, if you're based in the US, you have to be a 503c, and if you are not based in the US, there are going to be requirements that your local government will help determine whether you're eligible for the program or not. The second is a high-quality website. During the application process, we will review your website, your online presence, make sure that you're really focused on that mission and that your advertising will be successful if driven to that website. And then lastly, an ongoing requirement is account management. Are you keeping your Google Ads account up to date? Are you managing actively? And are you taking advantage of improvements from the product as we develop? The application process has 4 steps. The first is that you sign up for Google for Nonprofits. Not only will this give you access to Google Ad Grants, but we have other programs, other Google products that we offer for free for nonprofits. The second is to enroll in the Ad Grants program more specifically. The third is to create an account, and I will add a little sticky note here. As you're creating your account, be sure not to enter payment information even though it's going to ask you. A lot of nonprofits get stuck in this step, and if you skip that step in the next and final step, submit your account for review, what's going to happen is the ad grants team will accept your account, and your advertising will be paid for up to $10,000 a month. Okay, so getting started. I saw more hands in this category than the latter, so we'll spend some extra time here. Let's go back to the search page. I know you all are familiar with this. So the search term, this is a vocabulary word that I will continue to use throughout the presentation. Here, where you're looking at donate old coats, this is the engine of the advertising, the Google advertising program. Everything starts with this query. Again, the search ads that I described before, those are going to be in the green box. The organic search results are in the blue box. I'm sure you are all familiar, but just to set a baseline, if you click on any of the blue text in either of those boxes, that's what drives a visitor to your website. Now, when you look at keywords like donate old coats, as someone who is using a Google ad grant, these are going to be your most important strategic asset. Each of the keywords that you may or may not be able to see on this screen are going to trigger your ad to show when someone is searching for some service or something related to your cause. So on the right, you can see that this nonprofit has entered keywords like coat donation, donate old coats, and donate used coats. Whenever someone searches something related to your search terms, that's going to tell Google that your advertising is relevant to this person and they should visit your website. Now, a structure is going to be the second most important thing as you get started with ad grants. Having a tightly organized structure to your advertising is going to make it effective and ensure that your ads show up to people who care about what your nonprofit is working on. So if you can see the screen, I hope you can. I'm going to focus on the middle column for volunteers and go from the bottom up. An ad group is something that helps organize themes around what your advertising is targeting. So, for example, you may want student volunteers year-round, holiday volunteers during the increased holiday giving season, and then local volunteers for different places where your nonprofit may serve. Each of your ad groups are going to have different keywords that target those specific groups. The reason why is that someone who is searching for a student volunteering opportunity is going to search for very different queries than someone who is searching just for holiday volunteering opportunities. And so as you're setting up your account, you want to group those keywords into very specific, tightly organized ad groups, mainly because people are searching for different things related to specific opportunities. Next, in the blue, you'll see what we are calling campaigns. So each ad group will fall under a very specific campaign. On the slide, you'll see educate, so educating someone about your cause, volunteer recruitment, and donations. Now here's where you get to set your priorities in the ad grants account. So this is where you set your budget. If, for example, during July you have a big event, you'd like to recruit more volunteers than normal, you're going to shift most of your budget to your education campaign. If we talked a little bit about Giving Tuesday earlier. If you are recruiting or if you are trying to acquire donations online during November, you are going to want to shift most of your budget to donations. Let's take a look at the keyword and ad group strategy. So if you're using ad grants now, hopefully you can take some notes on and get some ideas on how to generate more keywords and group them more effectively. This is a pretty good collection of keywords. What this nonprofit has done has organized ad groups based on kids' online coding classes and adult coding classes. That makes sense. Adults may be searching for different things for classes for themselves versus classes for kids. Better would be to really think about, okay, when I search for coding classes, how do I search for them? And if you separate your ad groups out between kids and adults, you're going to want to further separate them out between the types of classes. If I'm searching for an online coding class, that's very different than if I want to take a class in person. And so what this nonprofit has done has created 3 ad groups: one general learning to code kids learn coding skills, a second for in-person coding skills, and then a third for online coding skills. If you can see on the bottom, we recommend between 5 and 50 keywords per ad group. It's going to be specific to your particular cause, but no more than 50. That's really too much after that. We get a lot of questions about, well, how do I generate keywords? How do I, get the ideas for what makes sense? There are a couple of places that I recommend. The first 3, I've got 5 up on the slide, but first and foremost, your website. Take a look at every page on your website and say, do I want to drive traffic to that page? And if so, pull keywords from that web page specifically. Think about what, if someone were searching for this information, what kinds of things would they type into Google? The second would be upcoming events. So if you've got a fundraising run, if you've got a gala, timely ads are really most relevant in that particular time. So you can set up a campaign for the most timely events. Google Analytics will tell you where your traffic is coming from already. So you can take a look into Google Analytics and see what queries drove people to your website to begin with. And then Google Trends. If you are in crisis relief or if your nonprofit helps with refugees, you can understand with Google Trends, how are people thinking about your cause? What things are they searching for, and what are the fluctuations in their interest? And then lastly, the search terms report. So if you're already using Google Ad Grants, I'm going to give you a little tip on the next slide. We'll go into it in more detail. But the search terms report shows you the very exact keywords that on search terms on google.com and what variations are working, what are potentially irrelevant. So this is the search terms report. It is a tip that I'd like to give you relates to irrelevant traffic. So if you can see on the slide, this particular nonprofit is one that accepts used furniture. And the first 2 search terms in the keyword report are buy used desks and buy desks. Now, if your nonprofit only collects used furniture and does not sell it, this is an irrelevant search term. This is someone who's going to arrive at your website with nothing to do. So if you are already using ad grants, you're going to want to add those particular keywords into negative keywords. What that will do is tell Google, don't send people to my website, don't show ads for these particular searches. This is going to make your account much more efficient and make sure that you're spending money where it matters most. 4 tips if you're already using an ad grant. The first is to use your keywords in your ad titles. Here's where ad group organization really comes into play. So in the example of coding classes, you want to make sure to specify in your ad title that this particular ad is for adults, or you want to use kids coding classes for your kids section. A second is have a call to action. In your ad copy, rather than simply describe your mission or what your nonprofit does, make sure that you tell someone what to do when they click. So are they signing up to volunteer? Can they donate? Really call them and bring them into what you'd like them to take action on. Third, have a relevant landing page. So if you are, say, recruiting someone to sign up for your newsletter, make sure that you're sending them directly to the page with your newsletter sign up. Don't make them search for it once they get to your homepage. And then lastly, show in relevant locations. If your nonprofit cannot serve particular areas, does not recruit volunteers except for your headquarters, make sure that your campaigns are only showing in locations where it's relevant. Lastly, pro tips now, we're getting advanced. We have a feature called ad extensions. These particular features make your ads more effective by helping people take action on them in the ways that is most useful for them. So snippet extensions are very short snippets of text, and what they do is help people understand exactly what they're going to get when they click on your link. Site links help people get directly to the website that they'd like to, part of your website that they'd like to go to. So if, in the example for Fred Hollows, if they'd like to support the Gift of Sight campaign, go directly there. A call extension. So if you are a suicide prevention hotline, any type of nonprofit that really would want to drive phone calls with your advertising, this is a cool one. If you're searching on your mobile phone, a can tap right there on your phone number and call directly. They don't need to type in your phone number. And then lastly, if you are, say, someone who collects, a nonprofit that collects used furniture, a location extension is going to, when you tap it, it's going to pull up your address in Maps and help someone get directly there. Okay, so I wanted to check. Do I have more time? Okay. So let me just go to how you can get in touch with us. So I would take down the two addresses I would take down the most. Google.com/adgrants. That's our website if you'd like to apply, if you'd like to find materials for support. That's going to have it all. We do have an online community forum. This is really great because our help center is generally going to apply for almost every account, but the online forum has lots of very particular situations that you may find yourself in, and the community we support, the Ad Grants team contributes to that community, but you get a lot of good questions from other nonprofits there. The other URL that I would take down is our YouTube channel. That's where a lot of our educational videos are. That's where a copy of a version of this presentation will be, in case you couldn't see the slides. YouTube.com/Google Grants. And the other opportunities you can see up there on the slide. But I wanted to thank you so much for your time, and also thank you for what you do. We really love all the missions that you support.